Baby, I'll do what I gotta do. Sleepless nights and lonely days are all that fill my head all the time. Oh, baby, but all I do is think about the way you make me feel. 'Cause baby, this love is so real. Soon as I get home, when I get home,
Good evening, everyone.
baby, I'll do what I gotta do. Soon as I get home, I'll make it up to you. Baby, I'll do what I gotta do.
Very good evening to you all. How is everybody?
If I try.
Hi. My name is Aminata Kamara. I'm just going to put this out there. My voice doesn't usually sound like this, but it's been a very crazy few days. But I'm doing my best for tonight. How's everyone feeling tonight? Good, 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 good. I'm not going to shout. I'm going to just please be patient with me today. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Welcome you all to And Still I Rise. This is a fantastic event put on by Morgan Munroe and her team at Opal 22 to celebrate us as black women. It's Black History Month. It's a time for us to come together, to talk, to keep it real, to laugh and be everything that we are, and to celebrate all of that and so much more. Now, is anyone here on Clubhouse? If you're on Clubhouse, just raise your hand. All right, cool. Now, Clubhouse, for anyone who doesn't know, is a social media, you can call it a social media space, but it's basically audio-based. And I tend to spend a lot of my time on Clubhouse, but I never really go on the stage. It's similar to this, but it's in a virtual space, and it all happens audibly. And people go on the stage, and they talk, and they share, and a lot of it that I find can be very argumentative, and lots of shouting, and but sometimes there are really constructive conversations. But today, I want us to do something a little bit different to probably what we might see on Clubhouse. I want us to speak, but also listen. Listen to the other voices within the room. You know, I'm someone who really loves openness and vulnerability and honesty, and this is definitely a place where we're going to do all of that and so much more. How does that sound? All right, cool. So by way of introduction, as I said, my name is Aminata. I'm a radio presenter. I work for BBC Radio Leicester. So this is very different from me. I'm usually sat on a desk, headphones on. No one can see my face. So this is very different. But again, it's a pleasure to be with you all. So I'm going to do my best and introduce tonight's guest. We have 4 fantastic panel members from completely different walks of life, 4 black women with powerful stories, very inspirational journeys, and who are going to feed us with so much information and life today. Our first guest today was the first black female professor in the East Midlands, and she now works as a professor of sociology at the University of Nottingham. She's also worked right here in Leicester. This was in the early 80s, but she's since gone on to do activism work, social justice work, and working for inequality as well. She's also the founding member and chair of the BLM movement in Derby, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Cecile Wright. Keep clapping, she's still coming. Our next guest tonight, now this is someone who I've had the pleasure of having some really intimate conversations with. She's a mother, daughter, sister, and wife. She's an all-round powerhouse, navigating life as a businesswoman, DJ, writer, singer, and most of all, a mother of award-winning artists. She's a lifelong believer in the power of creativity, and since moving from London, she's achieved so much, and there's a lot more to come as well. It gives me great pleasure to introduce you to Debbion Currie. Our next panel member tonight is a woman who I've had the pleasure of having on my show. She shared with me her journey, her story, and it's one that is so powerful and very, very inspirational. She was once someone who was really pursuing... Tell Waze you're here, you've made it, you're here. It's all good. No need to worry. What was once her passion has now become her soul's mission. With over 15 years experience in the youth sector, she's now ready to turn her voice to poetry as a profession. Please give me the absolute warm welcome to Poetic Lili. All right, my fourth and final guest, having secured 7 Grammy nominations as one half of London's female neo-soul duo Floetry, singer, songwriter, and poet, the Floacist, aka Natalie Stewart, is here with us tonight. Welcome, Natalie. Can we just give another hand to these amazing women? We're kind of going to go into it. We've got a mixture of conversation and music and artists and creativity. We're going to have a wonderful, wonderful night tonight. And I'm pretty sure there'll be opportunities for you to chime in, ask questions, and, feel free to share as well. So before we go anywhere further, I kind of want to start by saying, we're asking you all an individual question. In as few words as possible, what does it mean to you to be a Black woman? I'll start with you, Poetic Lili.
Empathy, empowerment, love, joy, strength, melanin. Everything. It means who we are, beauty.
Absolutely.
Resilience, you've said strength, community, family, worrying, sometimes burdened, but creative, and always, ultimately, hopeful that things will get better.
Right, little words as possible. For me, it just means to be me. That's who I am. I walk with that all the time. I don't really remember a time where I haven't been black and proud. Or, well, I probably do, yeah, that's not true. But I don't remember a time where I haven't just accepted who I am. That may be the generation that I am. I don't know, but that's who I am, a black woman.
Very interesting question. First of all, what size are those? That's part of being a Black woman, you know what I mean? I like those. I would have to say, more than anything, it's like a VIP club. It's a legacy.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with everything. I don't want to repeat anything. I don't remember a time where I didn't think that this was the top blessing. I got that some people might not get it, but that's what I say, that's the VIP, is to be this.
I think what was also really wonderful to hear as these women were sharing was to hear your when you can just say a few words that people can really identify because you've been there, you've experienced the highs, you've experienced the lows. I love what you said, Cecile, about the worry. And I think there's a sense of worry that Black women feel and experience, mothers as well, that potentially is very different for other races as well. So
High
thank
blood
you.
pressure. I didn't want him.
I want to come to you, Debbion. Just in terms of progression of black women. You know,
Progression.
yeah, because you know, we've spoken a lot. You know, we've had chats in the past, and
Yeah.
you're someone who's really nurtured your children, and you've really seen them progress and grow. But I guess in your own journey as well, what would you say? How have things been for you as a black woman in terms of progression within this society that we live in?
Okay, so I would say that my what is that gene? I can't remember the name of it now because I forgot to put my HRT patch on, and I think I've lost some brain cells today. But that thing of not quite believing. What is that thing you all talk about, young people? That gene. I've forgotten it. Sorry. My so-called progression has sort of stop-started around children, and also kind of around education as well. So I was a bright person that didn't really fulfil my sort of potential in that respect, because living in South London in the 70s, 80s, there were lots of things that I realise now were obstacles. So, and I wasn't probably not as clever as you. So I went that kind of creative art dance route, and I think that's really stayed with me, and I passed that on to my children. I'm not sure I'd have gotten through without that, if I'm really honest. I think I could have had I been more of an academic person. So all the things I wanted to do, like I wanted to dance, I wanted to sing, I did all of that stuff a little bit, and then somehow my kids sort of carried it on and did great things with it, and are still doing great things. But now I feel like where I am now is at the age where we're quite invisible as women. I'm like late 50s, and there's a lot of stuff I want to do now, so I'm doing it, irrespective of what anybody thinks. And I have to say that I feel that being a black woman literally gives me the strength to do anything I want to do, because I don't really, I don't know why. I have white friends that wouldn't dare. Me, I'll do anything. You know.
Well, let's go into that. You know, that this because I have a lot of thoughts about this strength as a black woman. You know, it's almost like sometimes we have no other choice. We have no other choice but to be strong. But also sometimes I find that it can be, I don't know what the word is, sometimes to our detriment sometimes, because we then carry so much and it becomes overbearing and it's too much. I wonder if, Cecile, you can maybe share a little bit more about the strength of a black woman.
In terms of strength, as I got older and now became a grandmother 8 weeks ago for the first time. What it is that I now understand my mother, and I've been trying to fulfill the expectations of my mother, a woman who was denied a lot because she was born in a situation where she was not part of the marital situation. So she was colloquially in the Jamaican context an outside picnic. And that plagued her because she felt that she was denied opportunities. Her father was a politician in Jamaica, she came from privilege, but she didn't benefit from that. And my mother had 9 children. I'm the eldest of 9 children, 7 were girls. And she always said to us, "You as my girl picnic must achieve." I'm hoping that it's not all about fulfilling my mother's expectation, because my mother has since passed. But what I was able to gather from her own disappointment in herself, her own frustration, but what she did in her humblest way, because my mother was a nurse, she instilled in us resilience. I don't like to use the word strength because I agree with you. Black women disproportionately suffer from high blood pressure. Black women disproportionately die of breast cancer. I can give you a list of those symptoms and conditions that are reflective of black women's struggle in this society. And those physical manifestation of our struggle doesn't help us because we die sooner than we should do. I'm sorry to say that. So we need to be careful with this strength thing. I prefer to use the word resilience and how we use our situation and find ways of navigating and acting and finding solutions, either within our community, within our families, or within ourselves, or amongst other black women. It's a long answer, but I don't like the word strength. I don't like it. I think it's burdensome, and it can be dehumanising, because we are vulnerable. We're one of the most vulnerable demographics in this society. Never mind about that young woman who got murdered, Rachel or whatever. Black women get taken upon, beaten up figuratively in society as part of our daily existence in many ways. So I'm dubious about the concept, the notion of strength being linked to black women, because it means then people can throw at us what they want and do what, because we're going to take it. And to me, it conjures up a notion of slavery and accepting. But that's just my perception.
Just to follow on, during the pandemic, I had a bit of a health scare, and I didn't feel strong. I felt really, I didn't know where to go with it. And I decided to write to 5 or 6 black women that I knew and said, you lot need to support me. And they didn't know each other. Tara's one of them. These women didn't know each other. They all just knew me. And I cannot tell you how brilliant that has been for the last year. We've all supported each other. These women that haven't actually met, but we have got that thing in common. And I didn't want to be strong, and I knew that these women were not going to set me up to fall. They were not going to tell me I was a strong black woman. They knew I was scared. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
Whereas everybody else was acting like I was this, this strong. Yeah, so I agree with you. It's bullshit, really.
You had I'm in agreement. You had a term where you spoke about choice, and I do believe I have a line I have a lot of songs and poems, but a particular line that says ability to cope is a gift, not a test.
Absolutely.
Yes. And to be strong when you need strength is a blessing. Vulnerability is a strength when it's necessary.
100%.
Absolutely.
So even the opening question, what is it to be a black woman? I know many types of black women. I know extroverts, I know introverts, I know introverts. I'm an extrovert. I know those to be different phases. My sister and I, when we grew up, I was the one who was loud. She was very quiet. People called it shy. Took me a while to realize she was just really smart. Half of the people she didn't talk to, she shouldn't have talked to, and I probably shouldn't have spoken to either. I run towards the fire, she runs away from the fire. I learned about her later and was able to apply things that I didn't think I had, but I have. So choice is very important. And I think recognizing our multifacetedness, recognizing that we are all of those things, recognizing that we have the ability to respond and that we have so many incredible examples. We've got examples who did real bad with it, a grandmother that you can't talk to no more, an aunt that you just want to, I'm going to say it to her, why do you talk to me like that, and it doesn't ever make sense because she's never there for that, because you don't get what she's been through, and you're trying to bring her to where you are, and if she ever told you where she, there's so much to us, and I think that's a very important aspect, is choice, and is recognizing that the ability to cope is a gift. It's a blessing. It's something that to have that resilience, to have a well to draw from, to know how to pray when you need to pray, to know how to act when you need to act, and to have examples, good, bad, and indifferent, of people who've managed to survive through extremely trying times, much more trying than now, differently. So not to say that it's not trying now, because every man feels that his burden is the heaviest, and it truly is, So choice, and recognizing that the ability to cope is a gift.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This lady's a round I think in one way, shape or form we've shared, really powerful and pertinent things. And I think I'm kind of just thinking of the thread of the conversation here, and something that kind of rings true to me in what you're all saying is about the power of vulnerability. And actually also acknowledging that, saying that, hey, I'm not strong right now, I'm feeling really, really weak, that's a sign of strength. It's difficult to say I'm struggling and being able to embrace that. And I think as Black women, I would love for us to just step into that, so much more. And I know Poetic Lili, and a lot of the work you do, in addition to your poetry, is very much about giving women the freedom to do these things. Tell us a little bit more about that. I know you're going to perform for us shortly, but I think, the work that you do in giving a space for these conversations to happen, I think is really powerful.
First of all, I like to say it's okay not to be okay. Can we say that? It's okay not to be okay. Yeah. And I'm a crier. I do love a good cry, and I call it cleansing your soul, because we do as women, as Black women, we hold the burden, and I do feel that it's just we have to make it very blatant to our young women that it's all right to be vulnerable, and you can be strong and vulnerable at the same time. So as I was saying, my mission, I feel like my soul's purpose is to kind of help women to turn their pain into their passion, and that's a big part of it. It is a big part.
Well, you're going to do a little piece for us now.
I am. Oh my God. I'm geeked though, because literally there was this. I'm such a big fan, so I'm so
God bless
geeked. I was gonna actually sit where you are.
Yeah, come on.
Oh dear, you see. Libation. But I like to say we move. We move. Hopefully that's not any electrical fault. Okay. I hope this can inspire you. I do ask God to use me as a vessel before I write every piece. So. What does it mean to have a dream? To have goals so big your eyes are glistening. To fulfill your heart's very desires. Not to be afraid to set your soul on fire. What does it mean to have a dream? Yes, I can do this. If I just believe, then so be it, it can be achieved. What does it mean to have a dream? What if I no longer know what I want to be? What if I can't see what I want to see? Be still. Let your heart speak. For every soul is deserving, and every soul has a purpose. See, it may not be discovered yet, but chase your dream instead of living with regret. Don't get lost in the source. Life is like a long course. You're forever learning. You just got to learn to go with the groove, preparing you for your next move. See, it's not about having something to prove. It's about being true to you. I challenge you, before you leave this room, I challenge you to feel brand new. I challenge you, when you leave this room, believe that you can do all that you truly want to do. I challenge you, when you leave this room, think about what drives you. What is your why? And how will it define your life? Sis, it's okay to breathe again. It's okay to believe again. It's okay to begin again. It's not everyday Instagram likes. How can I like myself in real life? Every win is still a win. Can we find that drive from within? You're here for a reason. You're here for a reason. Let this be your new season. Just how Snapchat might update itself, who's to say you can't increase your wealth? Start by upgrading your mental health. Everyone in this room has a story to tell. What does it mean to have a dream? What does it mean to be seen? The possibilities are endless. We've just got to be rid of our negative thoughts. Give them a chance to rest. Can I tell you what it means to have a dream for me? Rediscovering who I was after grief. Now that's the sort of stuff that should be trending. A black woman rising. A black woman rising. She found her wings. She used what had broken her to find a new beginning. Torn between perception and reality. How many times I allowed grief to get the best of me. I was loyal to my pain and misery. But you know what? I found my master key. God is fixing a broken me. Piece by piece, I found my peace. I began to use my testimony. And I realized all it was my purpose. I realized that my purpose was all I needed to do was decipher what it means. What it means to have a dream to me. To believe. And girls, ladies, queens, all I want you to do is believe that you can have a dream too.
That was beautiful. Can we give her another hand? That piece really got me thinking. I've recently done something really dramatic in my life. You know when like your parents tell you, oh, keep a stable job. Oh, do your 9 to 5. Make sure you pay the bills. And so I do my radio gig and I've got another 9 to 5 job that I do. And I just woke up one morning I just got paid, and I thought, are you taking the mick? Are you taking the mick? Are you telling me that this is how much I'm worth? And I was like, don't want to do this anymore. So I quit. And I think, don't, I mean, you know, don't, okay? Don't. I kind of have some skills I can fall back on. It's not the worst thing in the world. But just hearing what you're saying about go after your dreams, sometimes you just got to do it, you know? And sometimes we choose the stable role. And I remember, you know, I used to work in admin at Debbion University, and I remember speaking to one of my colleagues, and she'd been there for 30 plus years, and she was just like, oh, I had a baby, and I needed to pay the bills, and I just had my daughter, and I thought, hey, this cannot be me in 30 years' time. I can't be doing it. So I think it's really powerful to get those, you know, those really real reminders about, you know, taking life by the horns and sometimes being a bit brave and kind of going out there. I kind of want to lead the conversation in a slightly different direction. Do you think there's conversations as Black women that we should be having with each other and ourselves that we're not? I'm going to come to you first.
Okay.
Are there conversations that we should be having? And you guys think about it as well.
It's fine, it's so much fun.
Okay, are there conversations that we're supposed to be having with ourselves?
And other Black women that we're currently not?
Well, it's hard to say in this room because we're doing it, aren't we? Yeah. You know, and I think sometimes it's finding a way to speak about what's not there, but also, I'm 42 years old, right? I come from, both my parents were born in Jamaica. My mother came here very, very young. My dad came here just a bit later, yeah? They were in the army. I traveled the world as a child. I'm extremely audacious, okay? There's some things that maybe I didn't get a piece of. I got a piece of something else, you know? But I feel very much that I'm of the generation moving forward that is supposed to be solutionary, right? I believe that we stand on the shoulders of revolutionaries who did an incredible job, an amazing job. So I'm very for the solution, you know. I'm for talking about the problems, I'm for seeking the problems, I'm for digging deep, I'm for pulling out the pain, healing. I'm all for God. I'm all for understanding that that is the guidance that we should be listening to. I think there's more so than just conversations with each other. I think we could all do with recognizing prayer. We've been through a trendy time of meditation. Those things aren't the same thing. Prayer speaks to our vulnerability. In prayer, you call for strength and coverage and guidance. So yes, I think there are conversations we don't have, but we're having it today. I think there are conversations, honest conversations to have with ourselves. I think breaking habits is very important. I think it can be a lot to pave new paths as well. You know, you may be of the generation that isn't suffering. You may be of a generation that is recovering. You may be of a generation that is renewing, that can be lonely. You can sometimes, you know, you may have a room full of people who are like, yeah, girl, and you just don't feel like that, you know. How do you manage to be a part of everything and not maybe be burdened? You know, maybe you don't feel oppressed. Maybe you don't feel trodden. You don't have to be. That is not our identity card. You know, you don't have to be in pain to be a Black woman. You know what I mean? You don't have to have a problem with your dad and issues with your... You don't have to have all of that. It's a very deep privilege. Windrush, you know, everyone was coming off of there with some fly garments, man. No one looked like they didn't know what they were doing. You know, they were traded up hard. You know, they were tailors, they were nurses, they were doctors, they were builders. We do not have just a history of not have. It's a lot of storytelling. So reclaiming your story, speaking your strength, speaking your truth, honesty, you know, I think is very important. And being okay with being okay, because it's okay to not be okay. Absolutely, it is. We're to strengthen each other, to strengthen ourselves. That's a part of life. But being okay with being okay is a part of life too. And celebrating that, celebrating people's abilities, celebrating what they've got, where they're coming from, who they're coming from. You know, I've got a set of grandparents that when I hear a voice like that, I'm here, because it's just the regalness, the passion, the audacity, connecting to that too, because sometimes it's fed back to you a different way. Nikki Giovanni says, you know, she has to tell her own story, because if she doesn't, people are going to be like, she's poor. She grew up poor, and they're not going to talk about the food, they're not going to talk about the dance, they're not going to talk about the prayer, they're not going to talk about the energy. You know, so I'm not very good with short answers, but yeah, I think there are conversations we're not having, there's conversations we are having, but I think that we're being guided in a great way.
I think it's a really pertinent thing you say, you know, about being okay. And I think it's really, you mentioned this as well about sometimes wearing the suffering as a badge of honor. I find that sometimes, you know, you be in conversations in rooms and people are talking, and sometimes the black identity is so heavily tied to suffering and pain and difficulty. And sometimes that can become like a big part of who we are. Cecile, I can see you nodding there. How do we, because I know you've also done a lot of work with Windrush, and you've kind of seen the generation go through. What kind of, and maybe what kind of conversation should we be having more of?
Well, I concur with lots of things that you've said. I'm not quite sure, but some of the things I think we as women in here need to be considering is how certain identities are imposed on us and what is acceptable. Black female identity. So the issue of colorism is a conversation we should be having to those who present images about us through the media that is invoking a hierarchy of black womanness and what it is to be a black woman. And I think we should be a bit more proactive in challenging what image of us is presented to us. And I wonder anecdotally whether some of the difficulties that younger black women, because I'm not a young black woman, but I read and I'm aware of research, the extent to which their resilience is being eroded. And I just wonder whether that is partly tied to the sorts of representations that they get that I never got during my generation, where my generation was about, you go to Sunday school, it takes a village, so if you saw Mrs. Smith in town and you didn't say hello before you got home, who told you that you turn woman? That you don't say hello to Mrs. Smith. So I think the complexity in terms of what our younger women have to cope with, perhaps we didn't have the same range of complexities. The other thing is, I don't know whether we're always supportive of each other. Do you see, I really, I get, my son, you can tell that I'm an academic, so I don't answer the question directly. My son, who is a teacher, head of maths at his school in Nottingham, for their Black History Month, he did a short video in which he spoke about important issues in his life. And he used me as a focal point. I was quite taken aback because I didn't expect to be hearing those things. Well, I don't expect to be hearing the sort of things that he was saying, because it's likely that those things are said about me when you're dead, so you don't hear your children. No. And one of the things he put up was that in 2013, I was one of 10 black female professors in the country. And his colleagues said to him, "Why doesn't your mother talk about this and feel proud?" And he said, "My mother would never feel proud. In fact, she feels quite ashamed, because there should be more. There should be more. There should be more talented black women being given the opportunity to make their substantive contribution to knowledge, academia, our narrative about who we are." Because at the end of the day, at the end of the day, one of the rites of passage in this country is education, and particularly academia, higher education. It is where your future leaders are created. It is where the knowledge about who is important, who isn't important, the values that society hold in high esteem, that's where it happens. And we should be in there doing it for ourselves. And if we're not in there, others are doing it for us. So going 2 points then, it's about how we as black women support each other. How do we? Because I don't think we do to the degree that we ought to. And there's also linked to that is the hierarchy of blackness.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's lead into that a little bit more. How then, so that's the case, as you're saying, how do we empower one another as black women? How do we do that? And not just amongst our peers, I think generationally as well. I think now in my journey, I'm spending a lot more time with my mum and listening to her and appreciating her as well. But prior to that, I think, it's just, I know what I'm doing, and, but how do we do that? And how do we do that across generations as well, Debbion?
I don't know if I'm answering the question, but I have to write things down. So one of the things I wrote down is that I'm in the age group, from where I'm sat, it feels like, the sisters are definitely doing it for themselves. But I would like to remind the younger generation that nothing's actually new, and that I would encourage younger black women to really know their worth. And I've written here, beyond bumper stickers and book titles, I see an awful lot of love yourself, da-da-da. None of it feels real to me. In fact, there are times I actually have to say to my daughter, because I've got her on Instagram, and I might say, do you know what? That person that you think has got it sussed actually hasn't. You don't have to buy that book. So my biggest thing is I think that people need to look after their mental health as black women, as well as their physical and visual appearance. Ask for help, direction, guidance, listen when it's given. But as for the question you asked, which is, what are we not talking about? I don't know about anybody else, but I have gotten to 58. My mother died 2 years ago. And suddenly there's a massive can of worms opened up. There's something about our families. There's something about our sisters, some that were born away, some that were born here. There are massive conversations that need to be had. I was born here, my young sister was born here, my 2 sisters were born in Jamaica. We never had this conversation. And now we are essentially orphans, and we're still not having the conversation. There is something in there about us as a generation of sisters, our families, where we're just not quite getting I don't know if you can relate to what I'm saying to it. Good. It's almost like, and then you feel alone all over again. If that makes sense. I know I'm talking a little bit, ugh, but that's what's going on for me. I think there are conversations that I'm having with my friends, but I'm not having with my own sisters and my own family.
Is that an intentional? And I guess I'm opening up to all of you. Is that an intent? Maybe for yourselves as well. Is that intentional that there's a lot that we don't share? Does this maybe come back to this idea of strength and not wanting to come across as weak? I know, sometimes for our parents' generation, oh my gosh, there's stuff that my mum tells me that she doesn't tell her peers because it's a thing of shame, and not wanting to, you don't want this family to say this thing, and there's all this hiding.
And the secrets. I mean, I'm working on a project right now about grief, and when you said something about, grief and then being able to let go. Yeah, I think actually, because there's a lot less secrets and lies now in families than there used to be, it's a different thing. I'm not quite sure, but things are changing.
Yeah.
But I think we have to acknowledge our differences as black families and think about how we do
It's
it.
almost like we came from a time of children should be seen and not heard. So, there was that thing of don't bother asking. I don't know how old my grandma, bless her soul now. I never knew how old she was. I was never allowed to ask her age. But like you said, when Aminata said them things, what came to me is like the secrets, generational curses, and mental health is such a big one. And I think within our community, we don't talk about it enough. And it goes back to that thing of strength. You've got to be strong and just get on with it, or you don't want to label yourself as depressed. You might just feel like if you bring that up, what are you talking about? You're chatting rubbish. Stop your nose. You ain't depressed. Stop your nose. You're just having a bad day or something like that. And it's just about being open and being able to, if you notice the signs, which are very often now, you okay, sis? It's okay. How you doing? Even simple words like how you doing. Just giving one another an open space to just have them vulnerable conversations.
Do you think there's been some information missing along the way when it comes to understanding mental health? I think from a cultural perspective, I find within the black community that sometimes, again, probably going back generationally, as you say, just go lie down or go in. Sometimes the fact that you're going through stuff is just dismissed as, just get on with it, or, we can do that. Is there something deep-rooted that maybe there's been a lack of information that maybe us as black people have missed that other cultures potentially have more of, or not?
I first of all want to say, everyone's messed up. Like this idea that, Europeans talk well.
Right.
There's a lot of identity crisis amongst Europeans. They think they're American, they're really Italian, they think they're, English, they're really from France, they don't know who they are. They have problems with incest, they have problems with molestation. The world is corrupt. We are experiencing it. And many of us have multiracial families. A couple of us, you've got a great-granddad who's white. There's no point in missing that or skipping that out, or Asian or Chinese, or, a few decades ago, there were world wars happening. No one was talking. All parents were ripped away. You're dealing with past traumas. So I think a very important word here is empathy. Empathy is an intellectual capacity, and empathy is a standard of humanity. Because to deal with the I and the problems of the I and the pains of the I, and then to turn around to someone and say, help me, and you don't know what you're talking to. Have you ever had a time where you're having a really bad day, maybe bad month, maybe bad year, and then you talk to a colleague or something and you find out that the parents were murdered when they were children and they were immigrants, they were ripped out of the country and sent to da-da-da-da-da and blah, 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 and this happened, and you're there like, yo. it kind of rocks you a little bit, because sometimes your dad that doesn't treat you properly, you've got no idea what his 0 to 9 was, or your sister who's, you've never asked me how I feel, was molested when she was 4 by someone she sees every Christmas. You don't know that, you know, and empathy makes you start to find reason for things and to connect to be able to take history and geography and all the things you know about the world, and oh wow, my grandmother was born in 1923. That's just a little bit after the First World War. I wonder how that impacted the people that she was raised with. And so all this intellect, you know, being Western and growing up in schools where you've got all these books that they're terrible because they ain't telling you the truth, but they're telling you a little bit of something. Most of my intelligence did not come from school. All of my knowledge of self did not come from school. There's a bit from, you know, I'm an army brat. I was born in Germany. I started school in Hong Kong. My mum could have been, I mean, David Rodder gonna eat your heart out. Like, she's a selector of above and beyond. The amount of music that she played that helped me to know who I am. Music, songs, you know, bits of books that I got, and the amount of my education that has nothing to do with the institution of education. You know, I remember when I was in, you know, performing arts school, and God bless him, my teacher, bless his heart, he really thought he was doing something great, and he was like, you know, we're going to have black theatre for this term. And I was like, black theatre? What do you mean by black theatre? What do you mean when you're saying that? And he really thought I was going to be over the moon about it, you know? And his intentions were absolutely pure. But I was like, what do you mean when you say black theatre? All biblical plays? You know, do you mean something with a black lead? Do you mean things that you've whitewashed and you've taken away? What do you mean? You know, and so empathy for yourself, forgiving yourself for your innocence, for your vulnerability, being interested in understanding what is wrong if something's wrong. If someone can't give you what you need, what's wrong with them, why they can't? Not just why are they doing it to me? And that's everything. That's the mental health issue that is racism. That's the mental health issue that is misogyny. That's the mental health issue that is violence and vileness and wickedness, and recognizing how blessed you are to not be like that. Gaining something from that, operating from that space. You know, so I think intellectual empathy and these resiliences and these other things, so that you can coat yourself with something while you experience this corrupt world. And it hasn't been corrupt for 20 years, yo. It hasn't been corrupt since George Floyd. It hasn't been corrupt since the enslavement. It hasn't been corrupt since Babylon. It hasn't been, you can go back where they were. You know, we're existing in a corrupt world. So what do we expect from this corrupt world? What are we reaching for? And then being the difference that you want to see. You know? How important that is as a part as well. And I may have gone off a little bit, but I'm very for the empowerment of your soul, recognizing that the gift of life is a blessing. There are so many who are not here right now, didn't get to your age, didn't get through their first day. So how can we empower ourselves in all of this real stuff, in all of this healing, in all of this seeking to do better, and recognizing how far ahead you are, recognizing that you are what your grandmother was dreaming of in your depressed state. While you're pissed off and the bills are too much, like, you're exactly what she was planning for. What, you went to uni and dropped out? You're a success. And you dealt with that, and you built, and you grew, and you did more, and you managed, you know? And you managed. So balancing it all up, I think, and the empathy is, I think, a very important part. I can't even remember what the question was. I can't.
really can't. I really can't. I think listening, I just remembered what that word was. I was thinking about imposter syndrome. And when you just listening to you, it's like, it's about acceptance, accepting yourself. Yeah.
How are we all feeling? We all good? We all good. All right. We're going to come back with more. We now have for you a beautiful and amazing singer-songwriter from Leicester. She first emerged onto the music scene in 2019 when she lent her vocals to Kamikaze's single Last Night. This single featured on Formula 20 soundtrack and has since racked up to 5 million streams today. In 2020, just last year, she took full advantage of the pandemic. And when I tell you this girl was doing the absolute most, best believe she did, and she was winning competition after competition, as well as being an epic TikTok sensation. She has also released her EP, her debut solo EP called Layers 0.5. It gives me the absolute pleasure to welcome you to the stage, Morgan Munroe.
Hey guys, I'm gonna sing a song for you today that I actually wrote last year, I think it was, when the pandemic was happening, we was in lockdown, but it was also like the top, the most important thing was it was BLM, and my mum sort of challenged me to say something, but I don't think I'm very good at speaking, so I put my thoughts into a song, and this is what came of it. It's called How Long? How long can we go? Been walking down this road, a lot of highs, so many lows. Remember, you are not alone. Point the finger with the gun, and then they wonder why you run. They kill another mother's son. When is it their time to be judged? This kind of pain is not deserved. How many lives have to be served? If the shoe was on the other foot, would they think twice before they cause more hurt? We will never give up until we get our freedom. If you stand with us, you're standing for a reason. Make a better world. If you have a voice, let it be heard. If you have a voice, let it be heard, let it be heard. Let it be heard. If you have a voice, let it be heard. Let it be heard. How long can we go? Been walking down this road, a lot of highs, so many lows. Remember, you are not alone. Point the finger with the gun, and then they wonder why you run. They kill another mother's son. When is it their time to be judged? Oh, if you have a
really teasing us there. Sis came with one number, you know. One number. Yeah, yeah. All right, we'll just let you just do your thing, but, well, I mean, we'll give her a few minutes. We'll get you back, don't worry. Do we want Morgan back? Okay. All right, I want to open up the floor. I'm mindful that it's just been me chatting and these guys. Any questions you want to throw to our wonderful panel sat here today? Or maybe any contributions or thoughts you want to share whilst being here? Feel free to just raise your hand. Go hand in the back. Hey, mama.
I just want to go back to what the ladies were saying about not talking. A few years ago, I worked for a Caribbean day centre. That really opened my eyes. It's true what the ladies are saying. We don't talk enough, and we don't talk enough to our families. Now, I was in a position to have to go to places like the bank, the doctors, blah, blah, whatever. And I'd explain to them, be careful what you were saying to the authorities. Because they refuse to give this information to their family. This is the family that's going to end up with all the problems when they're not around. And I took so much stock from that, and I just say to myself, you know what, I'm not even going to think about going down this path. Because if you say to them, why don't you say this to your daughter? Why don't you say, oh no, when I tell them nothing, they want to know too much. And I'm saying, it's your family. You need to let them know what's going on. And they found it to be a real big problem. And it's true what you're saying. We don't talk enough, and we don't talk enough to our own people. But we will go and talk to a total stranger about everything. So, in terms of me, I've got 3 kids. They know everything. They know the PIN number, they know the bank, they know the pension, they know everything. Because if you don't tell them, I've ended up with problems with my mum who passed away in 2012 in Barbados. And to this day, we can't get the money out of the bank. This is 2021 and we can't get that. And that's because she never said anything. She never told us. I don't even think it was about keeping it a secret. So I think for this generation, the younger generation, we need to talk about things that you don't think is important, but you think that is a secret. I think that's where we have to begin.
I agree with that. And I can remember, I totally agree with that. I think that's probably my experience that you just relayed, just said. I can remember listening to, I think it was Toni Morrison, I love Toni Morrison, or Maya Angelou, one of the two, talking about being known, literally being all she would wanted was to be known by her children. And I think it's really hard to not really get to know your parents till after they've passed. And that's how I am now. It's like I want my kids to know me, warts and all, love me, hate me, whatever, but know me. And I think that's when you ask the question about what we're not talking about. For me, as I was coming up at my age, it'd be different whatever generation you're in. Yeah. What was coming up for me at my age now was, oh my God, I'm right at the end of this. I'm in the front now. My mum's gone. I just need my kids to know. Yeah. Because it's important.
When I first came and I asked my dad and mum a question, oh no, you're not to know that. I need to. You're not supposed to know anything like that. And working with these elderly people at this project, it really, really opened my eyes to think. Because then they'll come to the office and they'll say, Sandra, A, B, C, and D. And I'm saying to them, I can't help you. You need to go and talk to them and ask them. I said, I can't do a voice that information.
Are you Sandra? You're Sandra, yeah. I kind of came to the conclusion in the end it was to do with self-worth. And in the end I thought, well, if you don't value yourself, then you may not value what's yours. That's what I got with my mum in the end. I knew that my mum loved me, but it's something to do with self-worth. It's like, I can't value you because you're mine. So I have to...
think that's the way they were brought up?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because you have so many characters in a family. Quite often the talkers can be too much.
I was just about to say that.
So there are people.
Too much. And as black women, we need to learn how to keep our secrets in house.
So you
You
see,
don't always want the world knowing your business.
you've got
And we
the...
fear that from our own sisters. They're going to run and chat, say secret that is so difficult for you to tell. Next thing you know, the whole of Leicester knows your business. If you know, you know.
What's your...
Oh dear.
That's so amazing that
So
you've
do we
said
not
that.
Trust? Is it the fact that we don't trust?
But it's the
Just
and
a
it's the
second.
different types of characters, isn't
Just a
it?
second. So
But that's
you don't,
interesting.
Is that for all women, or is it just black women you would tell certain? Because you don't trust them. What?
No,
Why?
it's not
Why is
just-
that? Is
it's
it
not
about
just black-
trust?
It's not just black women. It's just certain things are very personal.
Okay.
When you're vulnerable with certain situations, there's certain things I've never told anyone. So it depends on the nature of it. I feel like you need to learn how to push through toxic behaviour, which is you have to be careful who you vent to, because every room has a vent. And then now that one person you vented to somebody else. And something that you've come to tell someone in confidence, people see that as, I can't contain this, let me go and tell someone else. That's the whole thing. Once that's happened once and twice, that's something that can scar you enough to never want to reason with your sisters on a certain level, because
This is why,
some things are not to be shared.
and I think the two examples are exactly why I think,
100%, that's
yeah.
why some people don't talk enough.
yeah.
and
Some people
people
talk too
Yeah.
much.
But actually, that's why. But that's why we need the conversation.
But it's interesting that you should say that, because I never grew up with this. But in terms of the media, don't you have the Jerry Springer show and all those where
have
people
the
come,
Instagram show.
well even that, where people come and bare their soul and are being exploited and abused to
People
entertain.
laugh at your downfall. Not only does it go to your friend, it goes on Gossip TV, it goes on Instagram. People's nearest and dearest and those personal, intricate things end up online. This is the day and age that we're living in. It's nasty.
But we need, I think it's important, we need a safe space.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, the NHS is mixed. Not at the moment.
It's not our safe
It's not
space.
our safe space.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what we need to be able
Yeah.
to develop. Safe spaces where we can actually talk, because at the end of the day, you know, that Leicester's a very small community, very connected, and it's not like London or bigger cities. You know what I mean? And it's up and down. We need safe spaces.
Yeah, but should we also be educating our young people that there are certain places that you don't put certain things on social, just on social media, and it's not just about young black women; it's young people per se. Because I see the stuff, including porn, that they put on, share with their friends. I see those sorts of things. So is it about the fact that there is a provision that our young people have that my age group in the 50s would not have had? And you would have, okay, you may have a friend who go and gossip about, but you would have your little friends in your corner and you share these things. But so it's also helping to protect our young people from.
Feel like this can go on the internet. Some people feel like there's not a voice for them anywhere else, and it's crazy because in this internet world that a lot of people are not going to be a part of because they've not been a part of that era. A lot of the times, you know, people can talk to the internet before they can talk to their own people, and it gives everyone a voice that sometimes they don't feel like they have, and it's not always for the right reasons, because at the time you may feel like, you know, how easy is a conversation? I don't even like to DM, I like to come and look in your face. Good or bad, sometimes you have to reason and you have to go and look in someone's face and let them know how you're feeling, because things can be misconstrued, and that's what happens with social media. You don't know the tone in which it's said, you don't know the context in which it's said. Now there's three little so-and-sos under there blowing up, tagging other people. Now everyone else is coming involved, and the wickedest thing is social media world. I said, you're going to click and be in your own little spaceship going to Ghana in 2 hours and be out on a plane for 7 minutes a day. It's only going to get in the next 10 to 15 years so much more complex of what it is. It's for everyone to understand, because a lot of the elder generation won't understand that it is a part of the world. That's a part of the world your grandchildren are going to be a part of, and the great grandchildren. And I said, I feel sorry for my kids. I'm in a house like even one kid yet. Because can you imagine what it's going to be like in 20, 30 years from now with what's happening now? It's destruction. But it wouldn't happen if there wasn't a reason for it. So it's learning how to use our voices, learning how to use social media to benefit. No disrespect. Why are there not more black women here today that should be hearing the messages that are being spread today? Because social media, they would spread gossip quicker than they would to share the event.
Well, I suppose it's a great point. It's a great point. And it goes back to when I was speaking about empathy and recognizing that it's a corrupt world we live in. And I think sometimes we're shocked by this corruption that has been here. It's the reason why we're talking about the pain of our elders or the pain of ourselves. It's been here and it morphs into different things. I think also there's an idea that we believe that the minority is the majority because the minority is focused on so much. We believe that I was interviewed by someone in Johannesburg the other day, and they said to me, "Sister, where have you been? You know, you are virtually dead." Talking about me not going online all the time. I said, I'll take being virtually dead as long as I'm really alive, you know? I don't mind. And I think sometimes, as a performer coming up, I've played rooms with thousands and thousands of people in it. I've played rooms with a few people in it. I've played rooms that are packed. I've played rooms where people are standing in the middle. What's important is who's in the room, you know? So we could depress ourselves by talking about who could be here. But there's a reason why we're here. And I feel you, sister, and I really do feel you. I really do feel you. Sorry, there's someone putting their hand up, and I would keep on going.
Yeah, I'd like to say, over 50 years experience in this country, coming from Africa, born in Africa, people think Africa is black, but it's not. It's multicolored and multicultural. I think I myself would like to know where people are come from than to generalize the color, because we don't do that with the whites, right? And I think one needs to overcome that inferiority complex that we carry, because pride is going to take you forward. And that's what holds a lot of people down, I think. It's a big stigma of inferiority. They're better than us. Not necessarily as we know, but it needs to be proven. And I think, like the lady says, you need to communicate. You know, and I think finding a medium to communicate. I find a lot of people saying to me, "Oh, I can't do that." The word "can't" shows inferiority, doesn't it?
I don't think that we are inferior, or we think we're inferior. I think the issues about obstacles that are put in our way and having to deal with those obstacles. It's about living in societies that have been touched by imperialism, colonialism, and slavery. Africa's a continent, Europe, Caribbean, whatever, and having to survive, live a purposeful life, having to deal with those things. So I do not think my experience of black women is not one of inferiority at all.
And I think this lady's been trying to speak for so long.
Sorry, I was kind of going back to the lady's point. I think, also to your point, that I think we have to be careful about the stories we tell ourselves. So like even hearing you say that your children's children's children are going to be in this kind of a world where they're not able, I guess maybe what I heard you say anyway, was that they're going to be in a world where maybe they're not able to make these authentic connections.
Yes.
I think we have to be careful about what we say, and I think we have to be also be really careful about how we show up. So we could argue the toss about how your parents have showed up, or how your great-grandma did this, or whatever else the situation is, but I feel like now is the time, now that I know better, I do better, which is, I think, Maya Angelou's saying. And so I am very intentional about not telling my children or showing my children that I am this strong black woman, that I have my moments of vulnerability. I can cry because I'm sad, I'm crying because I'm grieving, I'm upset today because the world's upset me, or just because. So I think we have to be really intentional as black women to change the narrative in our own homes, with our own children, about, or even with just our own friends and family, to change the narrative about how we actually are and who we are and how we show up. Because if we keep repeating the narrative that other black women are going to get me. I have good black friends.
Absolutely.
I have great people who are people in Leicester don't know my business. But if you show up authentically, most people want authentic friends, authentic relationships. If you are willing to be brave enough, emotionally empathetic, intelligent enough to be willing to step out and say, this is me right now. Somebody else feels brave enough to say, this is me right now.
That's right.
And that's how you have real genuine, well, at least how I've experienced life, that's how you have genuine relationship and genuine connection with people. And it's scary sometimes to say, I'm not doing well. It's scary sometimes, but also you need to be careful who you share your secrets with.
It's the balance, isn't it?
Yes, so there is a definite need to be transparent and vulnerable, but not everybody has the right
It's
to
the balance.
access to my vulnerability. You have to earn that right, and when I believe you have earned that right, then I'm going to give you the respect you need to
Do you think you would ever find a balance?
Well,
What do you mean by find the balance?
About what you were saying earlier. Who to tell and who not to tell?
Yeah.
The balance is you utilize.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I think you definitely do find the balance.
I've been down that road.
And also I would also add, sometimes people will abuse your good nature.
That's right.
You cannot then say every black woman, like that's like saying every Jamaican's a drug dealer. Every black woman is not out to take me down. You might have taken me down, you may have even upset me, you may have hurt me, but you're one person in a big world. You're not,
forgiveness.
You're not definite.
Well, I think a really huge word here is intention.
Yes.
I think that word is empowering and clarifying. It clears the mind. I think balance is another. We were with my dad earlier on today. He doesn't live too far away from here, so we had lunch, and he was talking about, he calls it school fees. Yeah, like certain experiences in life, you can have a loss, but if you learn from it, it's school fees. You know, if you don't learn from it, it's a loss. You messed up. It's terrible. You'll never get it back. Boom, boom, boom. If you learn from it, it's school fees, and there is a part of it where you do have to learn. Some of the bad habits we're talking about, they were in extreme. So yes, don't not talk to anybody. That's an extreme. But there was something in that. There was a reason why that person was doing that. They were trying. There's some trauma that's occurred. Why now? You know. So how do you better that? I remember when my grandmother had a stroke and was in her final year of life. She had a stroke, and it was almost like, I'm coming back to the word that you had, worry. You know, it was almost like the lid came off.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
her language went out. She couldn't speak anymore. And the Christmas before that, I'd been sat at her feet collecting stories. Oh, I had stories from when the eggs dropped in the morning before she went to school, to her and her brother finding money and buying sweets and not telling their parents about it, and everything true to the car that needed fixing and the taps that needed changing. You know, they go back home with the taps from Debbion, and then they can't forget to send the tap back now. The house is heavyweight and all that, but everything that needs changing is apart from Croydon, you know? And so she told me all these stories. And then when she was in this unwell state, it was like, my mum said, it was like running your hand on a keyboard. Yeah, the words were all jumbled, the letters were jumbled, but I kept on picking out little bits, and because of the conversations we'd had at Christmas, I was like, oh, these are her worries. I remember that story. And I made a vow to my grandmother that day. I said, Grandma, we worry too much. And I know it's in me, man. I know it's in me. I know it's in Mum. I know it's in my sister. I know it's in my aunt. I know you got it. It's here. There's something about it which is awesome. It's made you that upright church woman who teach the pastor how to do church, like next level, hold the family together, matriarch, every grandchild thinks they're the favorite. There's something in this thing that you're doing. I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but it's on me to tweak this thing now. I don't have that responsibility you had. I'm not living in that generation you were living in. I am the dream that you were having. And I took it on. And when I tell you, I said, Grandma, I understand there's a difference between putting something aside and letting it go. And you're showing me right now, this is your offering to me that if I stay on this route, this is how it goes. You go from the woman tall up here, 5'10", blue rinse, don't play, you know, carrying it all, and then it turns into this. It bubbles over. For her at 79, it bubbled over. You know, for others, it bubbles over earlier. So I took the responsibility, because there's the corrupt world, and there's how am I going to experience this corrupt world? What responsibility do I have on how I process this thing? Who I talk to, who I don't talk to, how I talk to who I talk to, how I deal with other people's trauma versus my own. Why am I giving you this thing to hold and I can see you can't hold your own shit? What am I burdening you with? Do I need to give it to you? Do I need to give it to God? What am I doing here? You know? So I think intention is humongous, you know, and balance can be found. And balance isn't always 50-50. Sometimes it's 70-30. Sometimes it's 90-10. You just got to find that balance.
I just want us to hold one particular point that the sister at the back made, because I do worry. I do worry for our young people. I do worry. And I do worry because I see it through research, through writing, about how they are using social media and what it is doing to them. And I think as women, as black women, I think we must find a way of reaching out to young people and get them to look at how they use this platform and use it in a way that is not going to be destructive and damaging to them. I think, and that's not about intentional, it's just the way in which a generational thing of communicating, that getting a like on Facebook, or is that Facebook old now? Yeah. Probably. Passe, right, okay. Instagram,
can I
passe. Sorry.
I've got a 15-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just touch on, I think it's about instilling self-worth in oneself. So even when I speak to the young people that I work with, I speak to my daughter, I just reason with her because you just got to keep it 100 now. It's about, I try and say to her, don't seek validation. Confirmation from oneself and from the Most High. Don't seek validation
and
from
a you,
like.
and from you,
of course.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting that balance. And I'll say to you seeking validation and then you seeking confirmation. You know the difference. You know the difference when you've done like this, what I've performed today, that's confirmation. I know that how I feel. Me posting my little selfie, doing my little,
So how are we raising our daughters? How are we raising our daughters?
And our sons. And
How?
our sons.
Well, because we're talking about women here. How are we raising our daughters? I don't have any daughters. I had 2 sons. But how are we raising our daughters?
It's interesting because you said earlier how we're all vastly different, and that's what's good. We're all black and we're all different. I mean, I'm still here resonating with the 2 women here because there's something about, I think you're talking about trust. There's something about being able to walk through the world and trust yourself and trust others. And I'm a lot older than you, and I think for me, in answer to what you were saying, because I get what you were saying, it kind of sounded kind of old-fashioned as well to me.
Some of it was
Yeah.
construed slightly from a response,
And it-
but it's fine.
And it might. Well, for me, I grew up in London. You were saying that Leicester's a very small place. I lived in Leicester for 25 years before I moved out, so I get it. I kind of get that thing of you can't be an individual, you can't be anonymous here. It's different in a smaller town. But I think my way of tackling that is just I will give you any information because I'm not scared of what you're going to do with it. Do you know what I mean? And there's kind of an old Caribbean thing of like, susu and keeping things to yourself. Sometimes it's actually the worst way. Just be you. Does that make sense? That's how I tried to do me, and yet I had sisters that did the opposite, that kept things. If that makes sense.
Because we have a blending of cultures here, you see, because we're all talking about our cultural backgrounds, and we're all British. We're in the West. It's very different. So there's a blend, like we all drop back into our patois, our Igbo, our whatever, that kind of has the undertone. I had a best friend in high school that what made us best friends is that we were both Jamaican Windrush descendants and everybody else was nasty. That was our friendship. Look at her, man. Yo, did you see that? Did you see what the teacher just did? And you know what? It was a saving grace, Dred. I tell you, it was a saving grace. Because while we were young enough that everything could just be nasty and none of us were dating or doing anything nasty ourselves, so we could just pass judgment on the nasty world, And then that judgment became like the grid of our matrix. And then it's like, are you going to be a hypocrite now? Because remember, you've been calling people nasty for 10 years, So did you not understand? Is it, it wasn't nasty. Sorry, everybody,
You
for
were
calling you
young.
nasty. Or is it nasty? Are you now going to be nasty now that you're older? And I think this is what we're starting to realize is there's a blend of cultures. There's a lot of things that are very British that, nasty, right? That you wouldn't do. Or you couldn't do in whatever your background is, whatever your pristine heritage is. But now you're British, so don't chat nothing. Tell your business, you can't talk to anyone. Do therapy. People, carrying houses on their backs. I've had a bad day, breaking down. You've got this mixture, it's a blend of identity. And sometimes, you're real Jamaican, but you don't know the national anthem, Dred. You don't know who the Prime Minister is. You've never actually made rice and peas for real, all your peas are out of tins. No, seriously. No, how Jamaican are you? Did they pick the gunga pea? Do you know what a plantain looks like? Do you know that a mongoose, what you thought it was a bird, didn't you? Like there's some things where then you realise, every Prime Minister, back to Margaret Thatcher when she interrupted your school, you can sing God Save Our Gracious Queen, you make a heavyweight chips and know how to batter your fish. What is the whole reality of your who you are? Claiming all of it. The gentleman back there said that Africa's multicultural. The planet is. The planet is multicultural. So recognizing what box we put ourselves in, recognizing what labels we put upon ourselves, recognizing the limitations we give ourselves, being able to articulate your full self, like, listen, Dred, I love Appleton and Ray and all them things there, but, is that a pint? If you're both of them, you're both of them. Yeah. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to your children? You had
parents who may be very heavy-tongued Jamaican, they felt a little bit different about going in to talk to your school teachers. They felt funny about it. You, get in the school and talk to the teachers. You know the system. Don't scream at your son when he comes home with something the first day. You remember what they did to you. Recognize, go in, speak, don't be afraid. Hold your Britishness up. Don't, listen, it's fought for, it's well represented and documented, it's yours. The burgundy passport dread, it's yours. It's not, if you've been school here, you can say where you're born is down the road, all them things that, stand up. Stand up in it and claim yourself and tell people who you are. Don't let no one tell you who you are and what it's supposed to be and how you're supposed to be. And if you didn't go to church in Jamaica with the fan and all that, don't pretend you did. You know what I mean? You went to the one with the air conditioner that's cold down the road there. Do you know what? Be real about how you tell yourself your story. And blend it all. And it's been happening for generations. You're not the first. The amount of you that think that your granddad's just from Jamaica, and you don't know, say, his great-granddad's from Cuba, and you don't know that it's only a little while ago that someone was in Ireland. You don't even know that Germany's a part of your heritage. We know three, 4 generations. Okay, now you can give your DNA to some stranger and they'll tell you who everything is and all of that. Back in the day, we didn't have no stories. Now, apparently, you could just do a swab and find it all out. But my point is how you tell your story. And to be here, if you are a child of an enslaved descendant, you are an absolute, complete and utter celebration. Your life should be being celebrated because Jano, how you're here, is a story in itself. And you won't ever know that part. How that survival happened, the traumas that come with that. Now, we get to peel those off. And we could be excited about that, you know. But be real about it. Again, I don't know what the question was. I'm feeling passionate. You know, I don't know what happened there. I don't know.
You know, I think what you're bringing together there, Floacist, is exactly what today is about. It's definitely about this. And still I rise. It's about us as black women embracing every single facet of who we are. You know, and I love what you said about, you know, we have to lead by example. We have to be that person that we want to see. We have to champion. And we have to create, because I think what's beautiful about what we're doing here, we're all going to go away. Probably going to tell a friend, going to tell a colleague, might say to your mum, oh, I went to this event. You might say to, and it has a ripple effect. You know, the impact of the conversation we're happening today, the way our minds are being, you know, transformed, renewed or affirmed, you know, these ideas that we have, they're being affirmed about who we are and where we're going. It's having a ripple effect and it's going to change, you know, our sphere of influence, not just now, but for the generations to come. So, you know, this is a powerful event, and honestly, it is what it is because of every single woman and person and man who is in this space today. Should we have a little bit of Morgan Munroe? Yeah. Let's have a bit. We'll come back in a little while, but come on up, Morgan. She's going to give us a lovely a cappella.
Oh, I need to read. Are you performing? I'm doing some poetry at the end, yes. Fantastic. Yes.
I'm back.
Why don't we let her have the stage? Eh?
This is a bit stiff. You guys can stay, I don't mind. Are you sure? Yeah. All right. Okay. My laptop broke last week, and silly me doesn't have a hard drive, so lost all my files. So yeah, I couldn't find the file for this one, but I'm going to do it a cappella. It actually kind of goes with the theme a little bit. This song is called Lost and Found. I wrote it a few years ago now. Debbion doesn't actually know this, but she inspired me to write this song. I was kind of like going through the motions of a self-doubting artist, a woman in the industry facing the struggles and strives, as every woman in the industry would know. And it was all just getting on top of me and making me feel a bit down. And I spoke to Debbion on the phone, and she just sort of said to me, just be in yourself, like learn how to do everything yourself. Don't need to rely on anyone, like find the creativity and your voice and your message and your power within your music. And that's what inspired me to write this song. And it's about, basically, I'm not good at like talking about my feelings and expressing myself and asking for support and help. And this song sort of was me just being like the most vulnerable I'd ever been in my music and asking for that within the song. And actually it helped me to sort of find my peace and find my voice and learn that, like what these ladies were saying, like when you're weak, it's actually a strength, and showing it and asking for support and help and stuff is really empowering. So yeah, this is called Lost and Found. Let me get my note. Cool. Lost, feeling a little lost, caught between what it is and what it is not. Lost, and what could never be is caught in between. Always the way. Why can't I be good enough for you? 'Cause I know I am good enough. Lost, made to feel bad for my emotions. I'd rather not have them or find it hard to ask for help. Will you help me? I'm asking, no, will you help me? We might not know, but we need each other. Oh, what do we owe one another? Lost, what do we owe one another? Lost, feeling a little lost. Lost, lost, lost. Thank you. That's actually it now. I'm not coming back.
Another big, massive round of applause. This almost brings us to the end of today. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Have you enjoyed it? Yeah. Clap. I want to say thank you once again to all of our fantastic panelists. Please, if you don't mind just coming back, I just want to ask you to just give just a final word about what you hope, I guess, the coming months. You know, this is Black History Month. You know, this is stuff where we probably intentionally do stuff like this, but we don't just exist in October. We have these conversations throughout the year. I want you to just give me a couple of words about what you hope the future will be for us and what you hope to see amongst other black women. Just my final question to my 4 panelists, if you don't mind. And then we're going to end with a beautiful piece from Floacist. So, Poetic Lili, if you go first.
I think we should just continue to normalise celebrating each other, normalise uplifting each other. I think obviously today we've had some great conversations, but to just close it on empowerment. Black love is normal. People always act like it's so scarce in the media. My Instagram is very much black love. Black love is normal. We don't have to struggle to love as black women. That notion is gone. And just to celebrate each other. Normalise black women having luxury. Normalise black women just being normal women. It doesn't always have to be so, more like
I just wanted to say that perhaps we need to talk about celebrating Black History Season. I don't like the month. This is something we should be doing throughout the year. And what I would like is for us to continue with the conversation. And please, if we can find ways, resource-wise, of having the conversation, whatever it may be, on a regular basis, because that is part of reinforcing the resilience and providing the empowerment and providing the strength, inverted commas, and providing the affirmation, the recognition, the acknowledgement, noting the achievements of black women in this society. And we need to do something about the way in which our creativity is often stolen and appropriated. Thank you.
I'm not trying to bring us all down. I think for me, I'm going to be reminding myself to kind of set the balance right. A lot of my friends recently, a lot of people I know on social media have gone off at the deep end about violence against women. A lot of talk about Sarah Everard, and I found myself having to say Sabina Nessa, Beba Henry, Nicole Smallman, and to remind them that we have to say all their names. So that's me for this year, just not to get carried along by the media stuff. Sorry to bring everybody down.
Well, I'm going to do a poem which will have a lot of what I think in it. I would say recognize the twisted compliments. They're horrible and they're mean quite often, but quite often this is what makes it such a twist on the brain, is, why you got a problem with me? You don't know me. Why you got a problem? What is it you're scared of? What is it that I represent that you're scared of, that you've been scared of for so long, that your parents have told you to continue to be scared of? What is it that you're scared of? And get to the answer of that for yourselves so that you can hold up yourselves and recognize that it's a twisted compliment that you're dealing with out in this world here. I agree. The idea of Black History being a month, it just messes up the whole calendar. I mean, it is history, and like I said, I've never relied on a teacher to teach me who I am, other than the teachers who were in my house and the teachers who ultimately, my parents, my mother in particular, my grandmother, who taught me about God, because ultimately, without that, it's just a whole bunch of conversations and what's real and what's not. So ground ourselves, be the difference we want to see. Don't get too carried away with just judging the rest of the world. Check where you are. check how your own behavior is. Don't let yourself off just because everyone else is off. It's not enough to be more righteous than the non-righteous. Not enough. You know, you hold your own standard. I find that changes your whole world.
Poetic Lili, Cecile, Debbion, and Floacist, thank you all so much for being a fantastic panel. Give them a round of applause again. And to our guests as well, thank you all so much for being a part of today, of contributing, of sharing. Honestly, this wouldn't have been what it has been, if it wasn't for all of you. So give yourselves a massive round of applause as well. And a huge shout out to Tara Munroe and Tanya as well for putting on this fantastic event. They've got a number of things. They've got a number of events happening throughout the week, so make sure you check out Opal 22 on Instagram and online.
Next Saturday, don't forget that. And, Ultra Violence at the Phoenix on this Saturday, which is the film about the people that have been killed within police custody over the last 20 years in Britain. It's really powerful. We've got a panelist of one of the family members as well coming up there. So it's at the Phoenix, 7 o'clock. This Saturday. Next Saturday we have the Black History Bus Tour on the so just look on YouTube, Eventbrite, and get tickets and come along to it. 2 powerful events as well. So
Thank you so much.
thank you for your support so far. It's been good.
Yeah. So feel free to mingle, chat to one another, but before you go, I'm going to leave you in the capable, sweet, powerful, sensational hands of Floacist. Give her a hand.
The red mic is mine. Oh, yeah. I had an option of sharing old things, and I'm like, no, I'm going to share new things. Prayed on it. And so I'm going to share this. Is that okay? Yes. Thank you for your participation. It's been inspiring. Okay. I am wounded and attempting to heal our families, heal our friends, diagnose our foes, whilst cutting off the artery where our royal blood flows, drips, drops, lightheaded during the op, triggered but delivered, can't feel the pain that I forgot. Numb is not a good sign. Like being drunk off of too much wine, escaping the mind whilst locked in time. I pray I find the tools I'm reaching for. Weeping, I pour my best intentions into advice. Hopefully I'll heal a part of me if I get it right, because I got mine wrong on a study night. When I was running from responsibility, I chose to fight. I chose to take flight, head in books, overlooking paragraphs. The pictures got me hooked on imagery. That's thoughts I've froze. Too cold. I think my chakras are pleading to be released, because if it's broken, surely it must be open. Over here denying and lying about the state of this token. Let me help you so I can help me. Let me tend to you so I can pretend to be over it, disposed of it. The waste I'll face when I complete my shift. See, accidents are my emergency. Your attention is my insurance. Your gratitude is latitude for me. I appreciate your interference. High on gas, I soothe. Don't be too kind to me. Please, I'll lose control. Let's stay with life support. I dare not try to report my own feelings in my memory. I daren't remember me. Let's stay focused externally. What do you need? I intend to extend my services. I depend on pretense to get over it. You know, that. You know, then. But that's enough about me. Can't let it win. Can't let it out. Can't keep it close. I prefer to ignore all that I propose you listen to. I'm helping you. That's good enough for me. I practice my patience on setting you free as you are not me. No, you are not me. So, test your peace. Test your peace on your belief of where you are and where you've been, how you lose and how you win, because all it takes is the right, wrong thing to shift the sand, to shift the soil, to shift the waters and bring you to a boil. I believe that all emotions have the right to be heard. And all outbursts have a right to be observed. For we are all performers by nature, by molecule, by particle. We are forever debaters, forever in front of our Father. We express. Some call it drama, some call it communication. Working through the abbreviations we create when cutting corners. For there is no quicker way to heal than to deal with all challenges face on. Taking all activities and moving on, staying strong, staying honest, being true, not embarrassed, because all it takes is the right, wrong thing to disrupt, to dis-ease. I mean, a true breach, a break, a dam, too late. It's a flood zone. All senses have left home. No key, full release into the danger tone. That's smiling eyes, screaming heart, steady hands whilst falling apart. Best bet is to admit. It's the kindest route to your own self-help kit. So just breathe, or just leave. Or just do it. Or just renew it. It's a new barrier, a new fence, some fresh boundaries to implement. Count to 10 or count to plenty. Do whatever it takes to get you from 0 to empty or from empty to full. It all depends on what trick you're attempting to pull or push. Stop. Go find me. Inside me. Because centered is my preferred setting. It keeps me further from regretting, and I'm not betting on my own ability to wind my own neck in, because it only takes the right, wrong thing on the wrong, right day to bring feelings to the surface that are chosen to say or to state, to make known. Tell it straight, we're all gone, real talk, no BS. It's the truth. It's for you. It's for proof. Too aloof and you'll be right back here, running in circles away from your fears. So take a moment. Take moments. I write thoughts down as to remember the conversations with my higher self, my better self. I take notes as not to forget the matter of facts I attract like magnets. It must be the electro. It must be why I'm so retro, like Old Testament, like so relevant. I work out equations with mental arithmetic. That's why I write my working out in case I missed a bit. I don't want to lose marks. I don't want to fall apart. So I take my time. With taking time, I am tender whilst being kind, I listen to myself. What's the point in seeking attention if I give none to myself? I judge my mental health by my humility. I judge myself by my ability to understand, to understand my inner plans. I admire my intensity. I keep myself to me. I know I can be a lot. I know I can be too much. And too much of a good thing can be a great time, so I enjoy myself whilst myself is feeling fine. Not afraid of my own company. Not afraid of being alone with me, as in alone with he, as in alone with the presence of the Most High. For in his presence I need not survive, I just exist. No need to resist. No need for wish lists. This is prayer. And I am there. I am here, listening. Forgiving me, forgiving things away like energy. I stay, never depleted, never repeated, just mindful. Mind filled with the peace of purpose. Taking time with the Lord as my focus. Focused. What time is it, yeah? That's time, yeah? I have to catch a train back to London, so thank you all. God bless you. And yeah.
You were made in heaven just for me. I'm in love again.
Girl, you keep the game switched